Hi guys, it's Kara and I wanted to talk about the colors that I chose for this little watercolor palette that you see in front of you. Now this is shown in my September hauls video. It is from Case for Making. It is obviously very small, as you can see. It is metal. Size-wise, it is about 3¼ by just at about 2½. So it's, like I said, pretty small, and I purchased it empty. It didn't have any colors in it. I wanted to pick the colors for it myself. Now you guys know, if you've been watching my videos, that I have a lot of other watercolor palettes. They are filled with a variety of paints, some that I purchased in sets, some that I purchased from people who make handmade watercolors and put together, and I didn't really do a ton of research when I bought those. I knew that I liked the colors, of course. I knew that I'd likely use the colors. If it was a big set that I was adding to, I tried to have a certain variety, but I did something a little bit differently for this one. I knew I wanted to use it for the month of October. It's going to be part of what I try and do for Inktober, which if I don't already, I should have a video up soon on that. And I wanted it to have a variety of colors that would give me a lot of options for mixing because it is very small. Now I think in my haul video, I said that it would hold 12 paints, 4 in each row, and I don't think I was clear enough in that these two pieces here would need to come out in order for this row to really be used. So I just wanted to mention that. And for this particular palette, I decided that I wanted to fill the pans myself, the little half pans, after choosing the colors. And so I started doing a lot of research. And I watched a ton of watercolor videos I had before I decided to do this as well. And again, I want to stress, I'm an amateur. These are my choices based on what I watched. But I want to give a shout out to two particular channels on YouTube because for me, they were the most helpful. One of them is The Mind of Watercolor, and the other is In Liquid Color. Both of them not only paint, and you can see those videos, but they give you a lot of information on color mixing and choosing colors and just a different technique type things, and I find them to be really helpful. So I watched those, and then also the person behind the In Liquid Color channel also had a class on Skillshare that I took. It is called Watercolor Mixing Based on Pigment Properties, which I found to be very interesting. I never really understood all of that, kind of how the paints were made and anything about the pigments. And so that's a very basic class, and it really gave me kind of a good understanding, and it did impact how I chose some of my colors, and I'll show you that in just a second. So I do want to give a shout out to both of them, and I will put links down below to their channels. If you are not on Skillshare, it's a monthly subscription type site where there's a variety of online classes you can take, and I've taken a lot of fantastic ones. I use it quite a bit. So let me show you the colors I chose. Now I do want to say this is supposed to fit 12 half pans. So you can see they just kind of pop in like that, right? 4 in each row. But I had seen a variety of other videos on different watercolor palettes, and somewhere, and I'm so sorry, I don't remember who, so I can't give them a shout out, they talked about how they had sanded down the edges of their half pans to fit more palettes, or sorry, more paints in their palette. And I did that, and I have managed to get 5 in the top row, 5 in the bottom row, and then I have to stick with 4 in the middle, mainly because this particular row is just not wide enough to put the pans in like this. You have to do it this way to get 5 on top, and unfortunately they don't fit that way in that middle row. So while I was figuring all of this out, I also swatched out a whole bunch of paints, and I did it using this particular stamp from Stamping Bella. This was designed by Danielle Donaldson. This is the stamp that I used. You could put the color, the brand, and the number, which for me, that was the pigment number, and then if there's any notes. So I'm going to show you what I picked, and then I will show you the half pans that I filled, and I will load up the palette. So here are the colors that I chose. And again, emphasis on I'm an amateur. I picked these for me, okay? So the first one is Pyrrole, Scarlet. I'm just going to apologize in advance if I butcher the pronunciation of any of these. Transparent Pyrrole Orange, Quinacridone Gold, and you can see the brands when I hold them up if you're interested in that, because there are 3 different brands in this particular palette. Lemon Yellow, Buff Titanium, so that is my first row. Middle row is Quinacridone Rose, Quinacridone Magenta, Moon Glow, Indigo, and on the last row, Green Gold, Phthalo Green with a yellow shade, Winsor Green, blue shade, Phthalo Blue, green shade, and lastly, Ultramarine, also green shade. So there are the colors I chose. So the majority of these I chose for mixing purposes. There are a few exceptions, and I'll tell you about those in just a minute. After having watched that Skillshare class, I knew that I wanted to try and find as many paints as I could that were single pigments, because that would make mixing colors easier to do. So this one, and the entire bottom row are all single pigments. I chose those particular colors because of the shades that I'm hoping to be able to mix, but there were 3 that I chose for other reasons. I chose Buff Titanium because I think that I'll be able to use that to kind of mute some of the other colors. And then I chose Moon Glow just because I absolutely love it. I think it's a gorgeous color. It's great for shadows and things like that. And then I also chose Indigo because it's one of my favorite watercolors to use. Just the color itself, I think it's beautiful. It's also good for shading and other things like that. But that's the lineup. I tried to vary these with some warm and cool colors and warm and cool versions of certain colors if you think about kind of the color wheel, okay? So I'm not going to go into any more details than that because I just am not that knowledgeable, but those are my choices. I'm going to go ahead and push these up here a little bit and get the palette. So I had all of these empty little pans. I shaved them down and you can kind of see, let's see, I'll pull one of these up. Well, actually, let's get a dark color. If I put them next to each other, maybe you can see a slight difference in how thin the sides are. But basically, the top and bottom rows I sanded on both sides. It took me a little while. I luckily had some crafting tools that worked. And that's how I'm getting 5 to stick in this, but it's going to be a very tight fit. So what I did when I filled these is I put the initials for the brand on this end and then the color itself over there, just in case. I can't help myself, I have to be a little bit more organized. And then I took the tube of paint and I just basically tried to fill it in, and I started down low in all the corners and filled it up to a certain point, and then I took toothpicks and kind of gently stirred it around to clear out air bubbles to hope that, kind of help the process so that it would settle nicely. Before I put them in the palette, I'll show them to you so you can kind of see. I didn't do too bad. Okay, so we have, again, the Pyrrole Scarlet, Transparent Pyrrole Orange, Quinacridone Gold, Lemon Yellow, and Buff Titanium. And trust me, they're in there nice and firm. They're not going anywhere. Okay. Now I did let these dry for, I don't know, 3-4 days. It was quite a while. I'm going to do the bottom row next. So then I have down here, green gold, phthalo green, yellow shade, Winsor green, blue shade, phthalo blue, green shade, and ultramarine, also green shade. There we go. Okay, so there's that, and then the middle row is the quinacridone rose, quin magenta, moon glow, and indigo. So there is my little palette. You'll notice this has mixing wells up here. I also have this watercolor paper that I'm going to swatch, so I have it with me. And that's it. That is what I'm going to be using for a while. I'm going to focus on these colors. I'm going to focus on mixing colors, and I will give you updates along the way if you're interested. So I hope this was interesting for you. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it'll help you pick your palette. Like I said, do check out those YouTube channels. I will put links below to them. Again, it's In Liquid Color and The Mind of Watercolor. They are just awesome. So questions or comments down below, guys. I'd love to hear if you are someone who likes to watercolor, if you've set up your own palette, what your colors are, the ones that you like to use and why. I find that kind of stuff really interesting. I'm a big nerd that way. And as always, guys, I want to thank you for watching the video, and I hope you're having a great day wherever you're at. Bye, everybody.